welcome to my podcast on real relationships. My name is Sophie and I am a relationship expert, international speaker, and best-selling author of the book Your Other Half. I decided to start this podcast because, in my opinion, relationships are currently not being portrayed as what they really are. Whether you're watching the news or TV, social media, the perception given to people is wrong. And my aim is to talk about what happens in the real world, talk about real stories, and listen to what real people think, do, or go through, as opposed to creating expectations of something that doesn't actually exist. I may not agree with everything that is being said by my guests, but it is their chance to express their opinions and share the stories. And here today we have Karen Gaskell. Hi, Karen.
Hello, Sophie.
And what we are going to talk about is basically living with depression in your partner and how you cope with it. So before we go on to that, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, please?
Yes, certainly. I'm just about to celebrate a significant birthday in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
Can't believe I'm 60, but I am. Inside, I'm about 37. So
it creeps up on all of us at some point, doesn't it?
It certainly does. So it's, but I'm going to celebrate it and enjoy it. I'm not one of these who go, oh, I don't want a birthday. I'm very grateful to have a birthday and lots of celebrations. Mm-hmm. I'm married to Keith. We have 4 children between us. My 2 are 35 and 31. And then Keith got a son of 31 and a daughter of 19, so spread out a little bit. And I've got 2 grandchildren too. And I run a business and look after my grandchildren.
Fair enough. So when you were younger, what was your idea of love?
Oh, very romantic. And I got married to my first husband very young. I was 21, and that was, yes, I did love him, obviously, but there was quite a lot of pressure in those days. I got married in 1981, so the late 70s. Mm-hmm. Your friends were all getting married, and it seemed quite good, and people got married younger then. So
it was kind of a thing to do, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the thing to do, and I was quite happy to do that. I hadn't gone on to college or university or anything. I really had and wanted to be a homemaker. I wanted to be married. I wanted to have children. And therefore it was a natural thing, you know. I'd met my guy, and yeah, it was everything like, you know, you sort of romanticize it to be, and yeah.
And how did you meet your husband, as in Keith now?
As in Keith now, yes. So what I can say, second time around, and I probably wouldn't have chosen to finish my first marriage. That was my husband's choice. Mm-hmm. But looking back on the 2 relationships now, I loved my first husband, but when I met Keith, it was something very different. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't experienced that. We met dancing. We were learning. I was learning to mow jive or sarok, and I went to a dance class, and it was, you partner up, and it was amazing because every time I went around this circle of ladies who'd come round and round, there he was. And I just knew, and so did he, there was certainly an electricity between us, a lot of sense of, I don't know, it was instant, definitely. And I would say, looking back, really, I loved my ex, but I wasn't in love, or there was something different. And that was what I found with Keith.
And do you think that maybe it's because you were older?
Oh, no, I don't think it was, to be honest, because in between sort of my marriage breaking up and meeting Keith, I'd had 2 or 3 friendships, shall we say. And maybe I was looking for something a little bit, I wasn't looking for casual dates, etc. I was 40 by this time, and I didn't really want to go out clubbing and just doing the bars, etc., which I certainly didn't want to go down that route. I then had a couple of bad experiences and decided, nope, that's it. I really don't want anybody in my life. I'm just going to bring my kids up. Men are just a pain in the neck. And so I went dancing purely for my own enjoyment, not to meet anybody, and met Keith. So it's kind of like,
it's often the way, to be honest.
Yeah, I met him when I wasn't looking for someone, and it bowled us both over.
Mm. And did you get
So
married quite quickly?
yes, we did. We would have married quicker if we could. We started dating in the March, and we got married the following April.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we had like children, etc. The irony is my divorce hadn't come through in time.
Right, okay.
My ex and I hadn't really pushed the divorce, and because then I got into a relationship and realised quite quickly, oh, I really actually need to be divorced here because I know I'm going to marry that man. So we had to push that on, and that took a while. So literally in the weeks up to the wedding, it was like, I really hope we get this decree nisi through because I'm now marrying someone else.
Yeah, so otherwise it's a bit against the law.
Well, yes, it would have been not happening, of course. And a funny story, actually, we went to the registry office once we got this decree nisi, and we were just like within the time limit of like 3 or 4 weeks or something like that. And we were at 4 weeks, and she got Keith's decree nisi out, which was like 6 years old, and then she looked at mine and the date. She said, "You're cutting it a bit fine, aren't you?" Yes.
I know.
But there was, I know. Tell me about it, because we booked the place and everything. All the guests knew they were coming, except Karen wasn't divorced. But it happened, and of course, yeah, we got married. Say just over the 12 months since we met.
And what do you think makes for a good relationship?
Probably different than what I thought the first time round. Yes, I think there's an attraction and all that stuff, but it has to be. I think what I love about Keith is his sense of fun and humour, how he elevates me. That sounds really big-headed, doesn't it? But he
brings the best out of you.
A real respect, yeah, a respect for one another, because there are, when all the smushy stuff goes, I think we'll talk about that. It's got to be based on more than just a fuzzy feeling. And I think if your values in life are similar before you start, then that's what helps, because you're coming from a base, a good foundation, if you like, of shared values.
Yeah.
Which can clash if you've got totally different values, and they can be sort of instrumental in lots of, relationship issues, can't they? So, so for me, it was his values as well. Yes, there was obviously a chemistry. There was something going on. I do believe in this love thing that we talk about. We can't really get a handle on it, but it's there. And then it has to be sort of more about who is he, what is he, what is his values, what does he believe, and that was really important as well.
And obviously, like in any relationship, there are always challenging times at some point. So can you tell us a bit more?
Yes, I can. Yes, about 10 years into our marriage, due to sort of financial issues with the business that we'd had, it's triggered a depression in Keith, which I hadn't seen before. So it was like, oh, okay. And it was just quite a shock, really, to see that. So the depression escalated to, I would say, I don't really know what a full breakdown is like, but it was somewhat like it was not good. And it was a very difficult time, because the person I sort of knew was not him at that time. He wasn't there. And when depression and anxiety, mental health issues come into a marriage, it's very different than if it's happening to someone else in your family, or a friend, because you can talk about that with your partner. For example, I've got good friends whose daughters had really sort of poor mental health and psychotic episodes, but her and her husband are able to share that together and then support their daughter. Well, because you feel like you're on your own trying to deal with something which
but you don't understand necessarily.
I don't understand what has happened.
Mm.
Where's this come from? So yeah, if he'd have gone out and had a car accident, I could have understood that, and you could put
Mm.
the pieces together. And his body's broken, he'll mend. But mental health is different, massively different. So yeah, real challenge.
So what impact does it have on you and your relationship on a daily basis, shall we say?
On a daily basis, yeah, it gets into everything, because I suddenly had to become the decision maker for everything. He couldn't cope with making phone calls or many social events. So sometimes the family events I'd go to on my own,
Mm-hmm.
um, socializing with people. Now, when that's, we are social people. We would have people for dinner, etc., etc. So that stopped. It didn't feel natural to go to people's places on my own for dinner. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to do that. So therefore, your social life kind of comes to a halt. Your intimacy comes to a halt. So that's again hard, because you're trying to disassociate the depression, the illness, from the person's sort of withdrawal from you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because they don't love you, it's just in this place. And it's very hard. It hurts terribly. And then you try not to let that hurt go back at them,
Yeah.
because that's only going to make them feel worse. Because basically they're the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is the problem, and it's manifesting from them and their illness. But then if you said that to somebody with depression, that's only going to exacerbate the problem.
Yeah.
And as a sort of, if somebody's dealing with cancer or with a physical illness, the two, if the person with a broken leg knows it's making life a bit more difficult, but they know they get better. So therefore, it doesn't make their broken leg any worse.
Yeah.
But because mental health is about how you feel and your head and all the thoughts in your head, thinking that you are making your partner's life miserable exacerbates how you feel as well. So it's a very, ever such a minefield of stuff going on every day. And the more I know, whether it's worse for having a husband who goes through this than a wife, because for Keith, he felt totally emasculated, that
Mm-hmm.
he couldn't, make decisions. I was sort of running the house, I was running the business, and that again is a very difficult place. I don't know whether that's worse for a man than a woman, because they want to be strong. And my husband's a sort of typical alpha male type, northerner and rugby player and bloke, and that was harder, because people say, "What, Keith? Really? No, surely not Keith." But those, you're nodding because people
Yeah.
see the persona, they see the face.
And also because I met him, didn't I?
Yes.
All those years ago. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so he also felt when he was having better times, right, we'll go out, but the strain on socializing and keeping that face up is really hard. So it affects everything. Yeah, it affects your day to day. So you also end up feeling that you're a carer,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't want to be a carer. You want to be his wife. But actually, you're the person closest to them, and you're the one they'll trust, and you have got to care for them for that period. And that changes the dynamic for a while.
And I suppose it's for better, for worse, so to speak, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm, that's my belief and my values, is that I wasn't going to leave him because of this. Trust me, be honest, there's times you think, I just want to walk. I didn't want to leave, but I didn't want to be here.
Yeah.
But I couldn't have left him, but there were times when it was like, this is so hard. And I understand. I wouldn't ever, judge anyone who did leave and couldn't stay, because it's really, really difficult. Probably, I think it's underestimated how hard it is for a relationship to survive. mental health issues really
And
hard.
how did you adjust to it?
I had advice. I made sure I talked to people. I did go down. At one point, I was offered support through the mental health services,
Mm-hmm.
and they were shocked that I hadn't had any support. And I said, well, nobody's ever asked. Oh, right, we'll get you somebody sorted out. And I was had appointments with a social worker, but I found that quite difficult because, as I said, I'm nearly 60, so I was in my 50s, late 50s then. And bless her, she was lovely, but she was probably 27, 28, and what? Yeah, how I just couldn't relate to it,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt the answers coming back were very sort of what she'd learned in textbook.
As opposed
So
to
yeah.
empathy or whatever that you would have needed.
And actually, all you need is someone to vent at sometimes.
Yeah.
And you don't need any answers because there aren't really any answers. But you also need to find the people. It equally happened with, friends who didn't understand and thought, well, he should pull himself together, for goodness sake. And they were kind of being sympathetic to me and saying, oh, that's awful. I didn't need that either. So I had to find the right people who understood mental health, who could just let me vent without judging me or Keith, or because you're also trying to protect that partner. That was the hardest part of the journey, is that sometimes you don't want to tell people what the issue is because you're trying to protect them from judgment or just having to go through it all over again. And because it doesn't get better just like that. And you get to the point where you just don't want to sort of talk to lots of people, just those few that understand. And as I say, I've got this couple who've got a daughter with mental health issues, so they were amazing. So, and a few other people, and another lady at my church whose husband also had depression. So her and I could talk to each other from the place of understanding.
Feel understood, because I think this is the thing. When you've got a problem and you start talking to people, they want to fix it. They want to fix you. They want to fix a broken person. And actually, just because they're uncomfortable with it and believing it's fixing, it doesn't help, and it's not going to make it happen any quicker either.
No. And yeah, you're absolutely right. So you just need to find the right place to vent and get the right support. People who go, a lady who I spoke to said, you've got to carry on with your life and not feel that everything has to stop. And I think
that's hard too, because there's no guilt.
It's very difficult, because actually when you're married, or even when you're really closely involved with somebody, their moods, their place, if you like, in how they are affects you. It can't not to.
Yeah.
And so when Keith was going through these periods, I would feel incredibly low too, because I was emotionally upset by it. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't
just sad.
In the same place. I was just sad that this had happened to him, sad that it happened to us as well. I had this is the second time around for me, and I really didn't expect, this to happen. The first time, somebody didn't love me anymore and decided to leave. Okay, that really hurt. But now I met somebody, said it was a really special meeting of two people, and I knew he was the man for me. And so you go through a period of unfairness and being angry, and you're not really sure what you're angry at. You're angry at them, you're angry at God, whatever. You're just
it's
angry.
Kind of the grieving cycle, isn't it, of what was?
Yes,
because even
exactly.
if it is better at some point, it's not what it was. It can never be, because you've had to go through it.
It has, yeah. And it is you go through that sort of emotional cycle. I remember, going out many times, walking my dog, just crying. And it's so sad that he was not able to join me. And yeah, very difficult. Lucky that I've got a fantastic family. My daughter has been such a rock as well. she's been there, and they understood. My mother was living with us as well at the time, elderly mum, and she was wonderful. So I was really fortunate to have around me some family and close friends, that when it got bad, I had somewhere to go, and just unload. But even then, it is very isolating and lonely for the carer, as well as the person going through it.
Yeah. And obviously, mental health is the subject of the moment, shall we say, especially mental health in men, because there's the stigma of showing weakness. As you said, it was a very alpha male. There's the fear of opening up, because if you say it, then it's real. How did you find that with him?
Oh, it took a long time. I mean, he has been through so many counselling sessions. So initially, we just funded him to go to a counsellor we've been recommended. But of course, that's not cheap. That's that was £35–40 a session. And part of the reason the depression was there in the first place was because of the financial issues. So friends were very good, actually. It was before all this crowdfunding came along. Our little group of part of my church, they all supported that, and they helped. But then that also made him feel terrible.
Yeah.
So you don't want to feel like a charity case.
Yeah.
Anyway, he did find talking helped, but it never really got to the nuts and bolts of it. And we had to try lots of different ways, different therapy. Mental health services are so stretched, and trying to get in the system. And the issue there is, of course, you might get in the system for a while, and then, of course, you improve, and then they take you out the system. But with mental health, it can come on suddenly again, and then that whole process trying to get in the system again was incredibly hard. So we've had some really good experiences with the counselling and different therapies and medication didn't really help him, because it wasn't the issue.
Yeah.
He needed to deal with stuff and let go.
That was the issue, yeah.
Yeah, and so unfortunately, they're quite keen sometimes to put you on tablets and try this and try that. None of those really helped, because they weren't the issue. But eventually, he did get in front of somebody who, through the mental health system, was just the right fit for him. And I think this is it. The issue is one fit doesn't fit all, or one size doesn't fit all. So you trial and error through all those things. But of course, that took 10 years nearly, or 8 years. And so in that time, we've had some fantastic times, where some ups and downs, and probably, if you looked at it, more ups and downs. It's just sometimes the downs seem really long.
Yeah, that's it. And would you say that with all of this that's happened, compared to maybe 10 years ago or even 20 years ago, has your idea of love changed at all?
Well, this is to go back to that initial feeling. I can still look at Keith and I don't get that gooey feeling.
Butterfly type thing.
Yeah, I still get butterflies. And I think the fact that we have come through something so difficult has actually really deepened our relationship. So yes, although my idea of love since I was like 20 has obviously massively changed, because I know that it's not a rose-colored thing. You've got to accept that there's going to be some really tough times in your relationship, and that actually, had I walked and thrown in a towel, I would miss something so special and amazing now.
What do you think's pulled you through all of this? Just the shared goal, the shared belief, just the love, this is worth fighting for, so to speak, or?
It is. Is all those things? I've got a very strong faith, Sophie, and I would say the times when I've been most broken, I've had somewhere to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, my personal journey is that I've been able to go to God and cry, feel bereft, and actually feel that I've been carried through a lot of this stuff. And yes, I've been angry, because I think that's another emotion we don't talk about much. But again, I've had somewhere to go with that. So the faith in God has been good, but faith in believing, and I've always perhaps an optimist anyway by nature, that this will end.
Yeah.
And belief, and getting that belief from other places and people who've gone through the journey is really important. Because I think because yes, it's nice to have faith, but if you also need someone with bones on, don't you, and skin on, so you can actually talk to them. And to people who have carried us through, and I would say us, and have come alongside us, has been really, really vital. So I think the combination, you must talk, but we've talked to each other, and so the opening up that he's had to go through has actually only enhanced our relationship, because now we can talk freely about anything. And I do think there is this sort of inhibitions at the beginning, maybe, of a relationship, where there are still certain things tucked away that you won't share. You don't talk about experiences as a child, all sorts of things which have to come out, or they don't. And I think if they don't come out, sometimes that leads to manifestation of behaviour, which you think, why is he behaving like that? Why is she reacted like that? But because we've had to kind of, get all the nuts and bolts out of our lives and our emotions, and I too have sort of kind of done the journey, we're now in a place where that relationship, there's nothing I don't think we don't know or understand about each other. So when we see the danger signs, or maybe
you can voice them,
we can voice them, and it's freed us both up in a massive way, and it's so important.
So the future looks bright.
It does look bright. We're also very aware that he will always have this condition. I think if you think, oh, it's all sorted, it's done now, you're in danger of not being real. Now, it might be, yes, he gets to the end of his days without it really affecting him anymore, and that would be.
It's in the background.
But it's reality. That there's a sense of reality there, and of course, that's what you do need in your marriage and any relationship. Is, let's be real. And a bit like somebody I don't know, let's say they had a car crash and broke every bone in their body. Their bones would mend, but there's still the scars, there's still the weaknesses maybe there, and you wouldn't want to have another car crash because you'd be frightened it would all. So I think it you put back together, but when you put back together, I think it's actually a better person than what it was before, who he is before, because now this is the real key. This is really who he is. Still, alpha male, but in a far more fragile way, and that's great.
And I think your degree is that to accept who he is, really, as opposed to who he would have liked to be.
Yes, I think that's it. It's finding acceptance and value of who you are today. And when you're young, there's so much drive, and you're young and you're driven, and you're ambitious, and you're looking for value and in your success. But of course, eventually that will stop. He was a successful athlete. He played professional rugby. That has to come to an end at some stage. You might be a successful careers and salesman, but because suddenly, at some point you have to just be happy in your own skin, and that you're valuable for who you are, not what you achieved or what you are to someone else, or how big your bank balance is, or how many cars you've got. etc., etc.
And I think what's interesting for me, because, you know, I'm a bit younger than you, but in the last few years, I've been gone through difficult times myself, but also, you know, the people have helped and talking to others. I think that what they call a midlife crisis is more we need to, you know, adjust and address who we are, because we're fooling ourselves of being someone that maybe we're not, or not accepting certain parts of us or whatever. And I think that's why a lot of people go through a difficult time at some point. It's learning the lessons to a degree.
That's it. You're exactly right. And I think if you can start to look back, and that's what happens as you grow older, you start to look back, and you've learned from that period of time and that experience, that relationship or whatever, and take something from it and let it change you for the better. And unfortunately, most people let them change it for the bitter, don't they? And they hang on to the negative from it, and that will only end up causing them problems. Whereas looking back, thinking, okay, you know, I look back on my first marriage and actually, you know, I don't blame him, because there was things I was probably at fault at too. And sort of an addendum to that is I have a really good relationship with my ex-husband now and his wife, and we share the grandchildren together. We're a bit of a weird extended family, but that really blesses all of us, because the children aren't thinking, oh, you know, mum and dad, we can't have them together in the same room. How difficult is this going to be? So we've enjoyed 3 family weddings together they've had no issues with that, because I've let go of, you know, the stuff that happened around that period, let go of it, forgive, yes, and that's a repeat cycle you have to be on, and then you can then benefit from that, because I benefit from the fact we all get on and we can share our children and grandchildren together.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're actually, unfortunately, getting to the end of our time. But my last question really would be, if someone's listening to this and thinking, this is me, you know, my husband, wife, whoever is going through this and I really don't know what to do, what advice would you give them?
They need to talk to somebody, and they need to reach out. Now, I didn't ever find an organisation, if you like. There might be sort of bodies out there, Mind, etc., that could signpost you to something. Now, if you haven't got sort of relationships with friends or family that can help you, then I would start with your GP, I guess. But you've got to find something. Because talking about it and being real, but do be selective, as I say.
Yeah.
Don't expect everybody to understand or get it, and inform yourself. I decided I needed to learn and understand about mental health, and of course it's just the tip of the iceberg because it's a huge subject. But if you can understand that it's not them, then it's not personal. If they could be different, they would be. So therefore, trying to get an understanding of yourself. There's a very good animated video called Black Dog, and I watched that, and that really helped me see what Keith was in a tiny way experiencing. So I just say try and get some help. Accept that you're in a difficult place, and actually you need help as well as a partner. Person. Exactly, and you need equally as much help.
Okay. Well, Karen, thank you so much for talking to me today. I'm sure it's going to help plenty of people who are currently going through it, but actually not necessarily saying it, if you know what I mean. So thanks again. And for everybody else, if you've enjoyed the show, then please subscribe, leave us a review, but more importantly, come back for the next episode. Thank you.